Well, guys, it's your boy RJ Game News USA here, back today with another video. And needless to say, I'm not very happy with Eurogamer. So often I find their reviews to be extremely low for games that I think are actually good. So, what am I talking about? Well, stick around, subscribe to the channel, and let me explain. So, Assassin's Creed Black Flag Resynced has come out. Got an 84 Metacritic. It's down about 4 points from the original game. Not a big deal. There's more reviewers in there. There's a couple mixed reviews that tanked it down. Fine. But, once again, Eurogamer is the low score with a fucking 60. A 6 out of 10. A 60 for Assassin's Creed Black Flag Resynced. What the actual fuck? There is nobody who can legitimately say, and I understand opinions are opinions. I'll even respect the 7 out of 10s, even if I disagree. There is no way you can play this game and say this is a 60. A freaking 60. So I did some digging. We're going to read some of the review from Eurogamer and figure out what's going on. But first, I wanted to find out who was the specific reviewer that did this. Who keeps tanking these Metacritic scores for some of the games that I like? Well, we have an answer. There is a guy named Dom Pepiot. He's the Deputy Editorial Director for Eurogamer. And before we even get to his review, let's read a little bit about Dom, shall we? Dom never thought they'd actually get to make a living from doing words when they were studying for a degree in creative writing at Roehampton University. But then they never thought they'd get to host a BAFTA video games talk either. Their career to date has been varied and colorful, whether it's been heading up the coverage of video games for a tabloid or making sure all the editorial is readable and enjoyable at NME Games. Don has tinkered with it. They also experimented with more cooperative content and professional speaking engagements with Red Bull, Samsung, Sola, SXSW, and other places. But it was always editorial that had Dom's heart. After coming home to roost at VG247, Dom migrated to Eurogamer, where they plan, not he, not she, they plan to oversee all the news and features on the site, hoping to fuse genuine enthusiasm with a clear critical take on the state of the industry and the world. The world. You are supposed to be talking about video games. Passionate about games and the greater good they, don't want to miss pronoun, can achieve. You can usually find Dom listening to records, faffling about in the kitchen, or playing Final Fantasy VIII again. They believe trans rights are human rights and that everyone deserves free healthcare and all the clouds are beautiful. It actually says in here, all the clouds are beautiful. You cannot make this shit up. They act like we can't read, and we clearly see when we click on this guy's profile, he has an agenda. And I'm sorry, but being an awesome fucking pirate that fucks chicks and gets booty in more ways than one, with Edward Kenway, isn't in this person's agenda. Okay? Clearly. So now that you know what we're dealing with and who gets put on to review some of these games, let's read some of the reviews, shall we? This is how the review starts. Are you familiar with the ship of Theseus? It is an ancient philosophical thought experiment about whether an object is the same thing once all of its constituent parts have been replaced. It is a paradox, a fun poke at themes of identity and continuity, and greater minds than mine have attempted to answer the riddle through philosophical, mathematical, and metaphysical lenses. But today I'm going to apply the question to Assassin's Creed Black Flag Resynced. Stop! Hold up a second. This is a ridiculous first paragraph for a review. This is absurdity to the highest degree. Revoke review pass immediately for Eurogamer. This is retarded, for a lack of a better phrase. Ubisoft itself says Resynced has been rebuilt from the ground up on the latest version of the Anvil engine, Ergo. The original planks and woodwork that make up the PS3 and 360 game have been stripped back and replaced with something completely different. That game was made in a very different iteration of the Anvil engine called Next. We've seen 2 major updates to Ubisoft proprietary tech since then. The result is weird. You're going to call something weird, bud? There are imprints of the original game inside Resynced still, but they're obfuscated and marred by all these roughly inserted new bits and bobs that feel awkward at best and actively detached from the experience at worst. The oscillation of quality bleeds through to almost every single aspect of the game. The graphics, the sound design, the performance, the writing, the pacing. Sometimes it's excellent, and you can feel the ambition of Ubisoft Singapore. There's clear love for the source material, and there's a genuine yearning to recreate that magic of for a 2026 audience. But then again, there's the reality of what we have here. The skeleton of an aging game crammed into the harried skin of something newer, tidier, and smarter. The bones of Black Flag are 13 years old, a reminder of a Ubisoft that reveled in the delights of being the kings of the open world. Quest icons litter the Caribbean map as the developers gleefully sling story missions to and fro. Absolutely thrilled that you'll need to spend 15 minutes sailing from the Bahamas to the Nassau to, say, Mexico's Tulum. I fear attention spans have slipped into the interceding decade plus. And in parentheses it says, I certainly struggle with some of the longer sailing sections. So it sounds like you have an attention span problem. It sounds like you have the problem, not the game. The awesome game that is Black Flag. Continuing. And I noticed I used to fast travel a lot more in this version of the game than I ever did in my PS4 playthroughs. Similarly, a lot of the main game's questing revolves around old faithful go here, do this approach that was so prevalent in the 2010 era. This isn't a bad thing necessarily, but next to new missions injected into the experience, and you can see the older ones have aged. Then there's the combat overhaul. When it works, it works. Protagonist Edward Kenway is a scrappy, dishonorable fighter, a pirate down to his salt-stained boots. You really feel that in Resynced. A rope dart can pull British redcoats off balance. You can take pot shots at rogue vagabonds with your dual pistols. And a Spartan kick, seemingly aped from Assassin's Creed Odyssey, is a gorgeous tool for knocking and staggering goons into the drink once you've boarded the enemy ship. Firing on all cylinders, it's a delight. Okay, then why a 6 out of 10, bud? Why a 60? But in order to be good at fighting as Edward, you need to know how to parry, how to lock onto enemies, how to pop off clouds of shot in their direction. And when the lock-on mechanic is as buttery and as awkward as it is here, you find yourself at the disagreeable end of a rapier or skimter far more often than you like. I had to restart many fights. Hold on a second, before we continue. You had to restart many fights. Did you ever think for a second that you suck at the game? Did that ever cross your mind? They, them. Get it? I had to restart fights not because I lost to the gaggle of Spaniards that were threatening to overwhelm my ship, but because of a slippery lock-on that made me whiff a parry and take an axe to the chest when facing the wrong combatant. I wonder if that could have been you that didn't time something right, or was it the game? Let me think. Sissy Pansy Boy trying to play pirate game, or pirate game that was freaking awesome being remade by Ubisoft. What's more likely? I mean, we can let the comment section decide that. Anyway, continuing. Or because I somehow glued myself to the musket man on the roof, which left me open to pot shot to the 10th from a conquistador of melee range. You're desynchronized, the game teases. No kidding. How about you, sir? You, the reviewer, are desynchronized. Did you ever consider that? Page down. There's a lot of new writing in the game. Approximately 12,000 new lines. I was told at a preview event a few months back, unsurprisingly, the quality here follows the same helix present in the rest of the game. Some of it is, I think, better than the moments of the original game. The rest of it, though, struggles to justify its existence at all. You can recruit 4 new named characters to your ship. The indeterminate jackdaw, upgrading and customizing your tub, by the way, remains a highlight across the entire 50-60 hour experience. Each of these new recruits has a quest line, and each quest line is a couple missions long. I won't ruin anything here. You can't fucking spoil it. The game's been out for 13 years. The Padre has a quick line of quests that is emotive, engaging, empowering, emblematic of Assassin's Creed writing at its best. Geez, I gotta watch out for that section. That section probably sucks ass. If he likes it. Slightly sentimental with a human edge, is smart and pokes at your empathy glands. Empathy. Where was your empathy? Where was your empathy when you gave this game a 60 out of 100? Where was it? Where? But here comes the undulation. For every few quest lines that make you raise your eyebrows and say, wow, okay, there's another one that makes you roll your eyes and say, with markedly less enthusiasm, wow, okay. Take the fate of Stede Bonnet, a highlight of the original game whose story was left to fizzle out and go limp in the name of historical accuracy. Here we get a proper send-off to the gentleman pirate, only it's just as limp. With Stede's closure, the sentiment turns sashine. And I find myself watching the events on screen, many delivered through soulless letters no less, with a level of dejection. Kenway in some of these new moments feels remarkably un-Kenway. Okay, explain that. The connective tissue that flexes and tenses between all these moments is great at least. The Caribbean is no less enthralling as it was 13 years ago. Little splashes of color and personality have been added here and there too, making it one of the most cursory stopover and some unnamed atoll feel inspiring and motivational. Diving sections have been added so you can choose to engage with exactly one for story reasons if you'd like, adding more variety to your seafaring escapades. Exploration and parkour are a bit weird though. I would need more than 2 hands to count how many times Kenway leapt from a random ledge or decided to grab something he shouldn't, provoking a spontaneous street brawl or kneel-hauling me into the drink. Maybe it's because he's a drunken rogue. Maybe it's because I mismanaged my inputs. That's the reason! Because you mismanaged your inputs. But mostly it's because I think the Anvil engine is being stretched in awkward ways over the bones of this Ubisoft relic. Really, a relic. a game that's 13 years old is a fucking relic. Okay. This is also evident in the new cutscenes or in some of the new cinematography. You'll see passed over the old game cinematics. Origins, Odyssey, Valhalla, and Shadows all opted for a simpler, more streamlined RPG-style approach. It's less dynamic than what you'd see in older games. In the middle of an RPG teeming with characters, subplots, and everything else, it's fine. But in Resynced, there is a lot of otherwise mocap material. These scenes jar, conversations are static and somewhat lifeless. You go from cutscenes with a lot of dynamism to something robotic and stiff. It feels more like Bethesda than Ubisoft. He says it like it's a bad thing. He says that like it's a bad thing. That's not a bad thing. Okay, now he says it's not a bad thing. But the score is bad. But it's one of the most obvious places you see in the old struggle against the new. Something that defines Resynced in so many ways. Kenway's story is somewhat timeless. It's very fucking timeless. Thank you very much. The moral tale of a man forsaking his previous life and identity in search of golden glory. I'm not sure it will ever get old, but I can't help but think of the background tragedy of his life being something of a mirror for Ubisoft here in 2026. Restless, agitated, unable to let a legacy rest, striking out in search of something greater, a retread of the highest ebb, a victory lap after a finest hour. Black Flag is a great modern video game, and that history is proudly shown in this remake, which is, when it's all said and done, a perfectly fine way of experiencing this tale. I also enjoyed reliving it, but the additions Resynced try so hard to cram into the experience are not universally positive, and as a result, it leaves the original feeling misshapen, wonky, and a bit rogue. Maybe that's fitting for a tale about a man pretending to be something he's not, but it makes Resynced something of a vagarious expedition. There's no plunder to be had here, we're just plotting course we've sailed before. 3 out of 5 stars, that is a 60 on Metacritic, the worst review of all the reviews for this game. Presented to you by they, them. There's your woke Eurogamer review. And you all can sound off in the comments. Am I overreacting? Am I being completely justified here in wondering why the fuck Eurogamer keeps giving out such low scores? I don't know. Let me know. Anyway, this is RJ signing out. Have a good one. Peace.